Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Welcome to the Networking RX podcast. I'm your host, Frank Agin, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections. Today we have another great guest. As our ongoing subscribers know, often on this podcast, I will be sharing ideas, insights, and best practices for networking. Occasionally, however, I'll be interviewing a guest, awesome and interesting people who will share their story, answer some questions, and tell us how they're looking to grow their professional lives. If you're interested in being on the show, drop me an email with the email we provide at the end of the program or in the show notes. Today I'm here with Marcie Littlejohn. Marcie is an author of Why Buy the Cow, and she's the founder of United Credit Education Services. Welcome, Marcie.
Thank you. How are you, Frank?
I am doing well.
Awesome.
Yes. Marcie and I met a few months ago now, and have run into each other time and again, and I said, I need to get you on the podcast. If you would, share a little bit about United Credit Education Services and how you got that started and, you know, your book, which ties into it, and your whole passion.
Well, I want to be clear. I'm not the founder of United Credit Education Services. I am a partner within the business. And essentially the goal of the organization is to assist individuals with becoming financially fit. Oftentimes you'll hear people talk about helping people boost their credit scores, helping people so that they can eliminate debt, all of those different things as it relates to being financially fit. But no one looks at the bigger picture of how do I teach someone the importance of credit, which to me is the basement of how you build financial wealth. What does my credit look like? How do I in turn monitor? How do I monitor my credit? How do I in turn look at what is exactly on my credit, analyze it, know what that looks like so that I can teach my family what that looks like to leave a legacy? All too often, people just want to do things for people and let them move along. With our company, we specifically want to help people understand the credit aspect, but then become educated at the same time. We also teach people the importance of having a will, trust, and healthcare power of attorney, because how can you leave a legacy if you don't have those things? In relation to the book and how the two tie, my Why Buy the Cow, in it I make correlations of how cow farming is similar to leadership. And all too often people don't think of leadership and finances dually, but they're actually completely married, because I've actually had individuals that have been clients of mine that have been turned down for opportunities because of their credit scores. And they come to me and they say, well, Marcie, that's not fair. You know, I've been working at this place for X amount of years, but if you can't manage your own home and finances, how can you manage someone else's? So in my book, in the correlations, the different ones that I make, I need to be clear, I've never been a cow farmer. And the way that it came to fruition is I was sitting next to a cow farmer on a flight coming back from a training. And he was describing to me all of the different things that he does throughout the day. And I said, man, everything you're describing is exemplary of a leader. We should write a book. And he said, no thanks. No. So he declined. I wrote the book. And there's several correlations in it. It's 86 pages. It's not a long book. And I made it a short read on purpose. One of the correlations that I make is a lot of people know what mulch is.
Right.
We just bought some, right?
Yep.
Everyone puts it in front of their home.
Yep.
It took a farmer to say, you know what? There's a lot of crap out here. There has to be something that I can do to make money out of this. But how many times do we get a crap, and I'm using air quotes, employee, and we just throw them away versus nurturing them, versus cultivating them, versus getting to know them to say, hey, maybe this isn't the space for you, but there's another space for you. So when I marry the two of finances and leadership, the reason I marry the two is because when people are confident, a lot of times they're financially fit, which in turn oftentimes makes for a very good leader.
Now, how do you find clients?
Good question. I find clients in a lot of places. They're referrals. I have realtor colleagues. I have mortgage broker colleagues. I have individuals that when I first started the business, there were just people that I knew that needed help. I say to a lot of my business partners, we have, and it's no indication that I'm taking anything away from a illness, but when people think about, there's about 68 million people in America with less than perfect credit. Wouldn't you think that'd be an epidemic? Like, that's an illness, right?
Yeah.
And in having that many people with that sickness, we have a potential cure. So I tell all of my business colleagues, we have a cure that can help people that's killing a financial cancer. Because what happens with finances is once one thing happens, it becomes a domino effect, and it just, a lot of times people feel like they're drowning and they don't know how to get out of that drowning. So we teach people how to budget. We teach people how to determine their net worth, because some people will Google all kind of different people. Matthew McConaughey, Kevin Hart, we'll look at their net worth, but what about our own?
Right. Yeah.
So our goal is to teach people that you can have a network, and having that net worth, you can leave a legacy for your family.
Okay, very interesting. I guess my question would be, well, my observation in thinking about it is most people don't know their credit score. I mean, people know they're 5'10". They'll lie about their weight.
Yeah.
But they'll know.
Yep.
But their credit score, they don't know until they look to do something meaningful. They look to buy a house. They maybe get insurance. Mm-hmm. And that's when that revelation hits. Very
true. And I also will say, because that's a very interesting correlation that you made as it relates to the weight. A lot of people don't know their blood pressure.
Right.
It's a very important thing to know if you
Sure.
want to continue to remain healthy, just like your credit score.
Right.
What ends up happening when people don't know their credit score is when they do go to purchase a home or purchase a car, they're going to give it to you. A lot of times, if you have at least a 580, sometimes even a 600. But what you're not going to get are those prime rates. You're going to get subpar rates. And by the time the smoke clears, you've probably paid for whatever you bought twice. But a lot of people don't understand that. All they think of is the tangible item, and they don't think about the money that they're actually wasting by having this high credit score. One of the things that I tell all of my clients when they call me, or my potential clients, I say, why do you want to increase your credit score? Well, I want to buy a house. Also, what kind of house do you want to buy? Well, I'm not really sure. So I give them, hey, do this. But in addition to that, while you're looking at this house that you want to buy, I want you to call your bank. Do you have a bank? Yep, sure do. Call your bank and ask them, hey, I want to buy a house, and tell them however much you want to buy the house for. Tell them you have a 750 credit score and ask them how much that house will cost you, because they'll give you a guesstimate. Then wait a few days and call back and tell them your score is in the 500s and ask them what the house is going to cost you. That allows them to see the difference between a 3% interest rate and a lot of times a 6 to 7% interest rate, and it puts things into perspective for people, because sometimes, let's just be honest, when we're looking at all of that paperwork and all of that documentation, a lot of people don't read it. They just want to sign it and get whatever tangible item that it is that they want to have. But it's important for us to start getting people to understand you got to read that fine print. You have to know what you're signing up for, because a lot of times it's putting you in deeper financial ruin than what it would be if you had a better credit score.
It reminds me of conversations I had with my kids as they were going through high school, and essentially saying, hey, that B costs you money. Mm-hmm. Those grades cost you money. Mm-hmm. This is real. And it's kind of the same thing. When you pay late on your water bill, when you pay late on your car payment, it's not just between you and the water company. Mm-mm. It's between you and the person who's going to give you a mortgage for a house. Yep. It's between you, and that's going to stick there for, I don't know, not years and years, but there's obviously a limit to it. But yep. But it's going to be there, and it costs you money.
Absolutely.
What kind of setbacks have you had in pulling this together or working the business, and how have you worked through them?
Oh, man. So when you first get into anything as an entrepreneur, you're excited. When I first learned about this business, I was like, oh my goodness, I have so many people that I know that are struggling with their finances. They have less than perfect credit. I'm going to get in this thing and it's going to be amazing. And it was. And then the ebbs and flows came. So you'll have people that will say, oh my goodness, Marcie, this program is amazing. I don't get paid until Friday. I'll sign up then. Great. Friday comes, the end of the story. Yeah. They're nowhere to be found. But I think the bigger thing for me that was beneficial was that I didn't understand the importance of a will. I know it wasn't an important document if you had investments and if you had things to leave people. But what I didn't think about was the legacy part of it, developing that will and that trust to put things in there so that you can control your money from the grave. And so when I think about the biggest learning curve for me, of course, as an attorney, you understand it completely, previous attorney, but that wasn't something that was taught to me when I was younger. No. It was, you lived your life, you paid your bills, you went to work, you lived the best you could, and you kept it moving with the hopes that you would leave something for someone else.
Right.
But now it has registered to me that it's important that what I did, what happened to me does not have to happen to my children. And so in our family, we have wills, we have trusts, we have things that are in place for our children, because the goal is going to be, if we start this now, then we can continue that legacy, and that legacy can continue on. So I would have to say, getting people to understand that part, Frank, is the hardest part, because of the times that we live in. Everything is so immediate. Like, people will text you and then call you and say, did you get the text? Just a second, it's a text message. I'll respond when I can. It's a message. But that's how instant we've become as a society. But if we just look at the bigger picture of everything is bigger than us. I always tell people, your life is only about 20% for you. Everything else is for people in the universe and the universe, but it comes back to you. Because we've all heard of karma. Whatever you put out is what you're going to get back. So if you continue to do well and do good and help other people, especially in your own personal family, it can't do anything but spread good throughout your family.
Interesting. Very interesting. Setbacks have been triumphs?
Triumphs, absolutely. I remember when I actually got my best friend engaged into this opportunity. I got her in as a customer first, and then she became a business partner of mine. And she's just really beginning to learn more about life. And so that's why I say there's a parallel between my book and leadership and finances, because oftentimes when you're stuck in that rut and all you see is, I go to work, I pay my whatever bills I can, I do whatever I can to come home. But when you get to a space, and I'm not saying we're rich by any stretch of the imagination, but when you're in a space that you're comfortable and you know your worth, that puts your leadership on a whole different plateau, because you want to bring other people with you. You want to bring people out of the mindset that they just do this, and this, and that's the end of the day. That's existing. I like to live.
Right.
So it's very important that people understand that when you're around those people, when you're around people that are helping the community, when you're around people that want to be a part of different things, it just makes you feel better as a person, which in turn, of course, helps with the leadership.
How about books? I mean, obviously, Why Buy the Cow? That's got to be your favorite book.
Absolutely.
If it's not your favorite, it's nobody's favorite.
It's nobody's favorite.
But what books have you read that have had a lasting impact that you might recommend to people?
So there's a few. Because I have 3 or 4 in my head right now, but the one that
that's a good thing. If I get somebody on here and they've got 2 to choose from, it's a problem.
Yeah, I've got like so many different books in my head, so I don't want to mix the titles. But there's one that is specifically talking about change, and it's important, and it's called Switch to Change. And what it talks about is there's a mindset that goes with helping people change within an organization. All too often, people just want to come in, say, this is what it's going to be, this is how it's going to work. You like it? No, you don't. That's fine. You can leave. Versus in this book, it talks about how there's an emotional side to helping people change. And when you appease that emotional side, people are more likely to do what you want them to do. And that part is important, not in regards to a manipulation. It's more of it's just like when you're networking. If people you can have the best product in the world.
Right.
But if you don't present yourself well, if you just don't deal with that emotional side of people, and it's all, hey, who do you know? Do you know anybody that can use my services? People are turned off by that. That's changed. So it's just dealing with that. So that's one book that I just recently read that I finished. And I like to read books about the workforce. And so there's a gentleman named Daryl West. He wrote a book about what the workforce is going to look like 30, 40 years from now. And what a lot of people don't know is AI is taking over the world. Like, we've got so many different things that are being controlled by computers. It's almost to the point where it's disturbing for some and comforting for others. So, for example, Anheuser-Busch actually has vehicles on the roads right now that a person's not driving. It's being operated by a machine. Bothers some people. That's an 18-wheeler on the road. Yeah. But in their minds, it's much easier for me to control this machine because nobody gets sleepy. You don't have a truck driver. But what is that doing to the workforce as it relates to individuals that want to be truck drivers? So it's just different things like that I enjoy reading that talk about, that are more forward thinking.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about when spreadsheets first came out, computer spreadsheets, that it literally put 300,000 bookkeepers out of work.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah. But it created 700,000 financial analyst jobs. Yep. Because all of a sudden we had the power to take things to a whole new level.
Yeah.
So I'm one of these people that, you know what, computers, let's see what we can do with these things. Let's, we live in a good time. It can solve a lot of problems. And I'm not afraid of progress. But anyhow, just me. Where do you see yourself with respect to this 5 years from now?
Where do I see myself 5 years from now? So that'll put me at 21. I'm completely kidding. 5 years from now, I see 5 years from now, I see myself in a space of continuing to educate people. I've been in adult education for 15 years and I love it. Like, I absolutely love educating people. And I would love to have a training center where people from all over the world bring their people to train them on whatever it is that they choose to train them on. But they come together in a space almost like if you could mix a Panera with a Starbucks with a training center and put that on steroids, that's what I would love to have in the next 5 years for people to visit and train, because I love seeing people learn.
Oh, neat aspiration. What would be a good referral for you? People listening here, hey, I'm really intrigued. How could I'd like to help her. I'd like to send somebody to her. Who would it be?
Anyone that utilizes or needs people that are credit worthy. So if you have customers that whatever your business is, a lot of it can hinge off of credit. It doesn't make or break it, but if a person has better credit, that can help them. Or individuals that are looking to basically say, hey, I just want to learn more about becoming financially fit. I have good credit, but maybe they don't have their financial affairs in order to determine, hey, if something happens to me, who's going to make the decision as to whether or not I stay on life support or I'm not on life support? Difficult conversations that we don't want to talk about, but when we don't talk about them, they become even uglier when they rear their ugly heads at that moment. Right. So individuals that are genuinely, I would say, looking to become on the path of financial fitness and learning more about what does it take to leave a legacy for my family.
Okay, good. Somebody's listening now. They want to get a hold of you. They don't want to refer you somebody. They want to be that somebody referred to. How do they get a hold of you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Best way is my telephone. My telephone number is area code 614-226-5781. You can call or text.
And if you text, don't call her right away. She'll get back to you in time.
I promise.
Marcie, I really appreciate your time today. This was great. Marcie Littlejohn, author, speaker, helper of all. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connections. All rights reserved.